Hello, and welcome to an actual, at last, legit episode. Well, or standalone by itself episode of History Boys Bad Blokes, and I call it that because technically, um, Fun Facts episode 47 was a twofold episode where it was sort of partly a Bad Blokes episode, and I called that well 6.5 because it's kind of a halfway episode between 6 and in this one. And this one is about a quite an interesting American politician. Well, at least um from my point of view, because I used to like people binge watch The Sopranos and all that. I eventually did that, but before I did that, I binge watched Boardwalk Empire, cracking series. Shame how it ended, because of Vinyl, which also, Bobby Cannavale was also in, who was brilliant as the unstable, takes everything personal Sicilian gangster Gyp Rossetti. But I'm going to be talking about uh, a politician also made more famous by Christopher McDonald, who's known for being for sort of typecast as being a bit of a sleazebag, or uppity kind of character. He was Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore. Still haven't seen the second one. Happy Gilmore is probably the funniest Adam Sandler movie there is. I don't care what anyone says. Hopefully, the second one kind of holds up or is better in a way. But and he was also like a rapey, um, like CNN kind of type in Law and Order Special Victims Unit. I think the only time he wasn't really sleazy is when he used to voice Superman in like the Cartoon Network stuff and Batman Beyond or Batman of the Future. If you're from my neck of the woods in Australia, and I'm not sure if they call it that, like Batman Beyond or of the Future in Canada or whatever either. But yeah, this dodgy politician is Harry M. Doherty, and the middle name is Mika Joe. He was the USA's Attorney General for Warren Harding and Calvin Coolidge, both Republicans, because um, Doherty was pretty much a Republican from the get go ever since he um, went into law, did his studies. Uh, yeah, and he was also one of the many corrupt politicians involved in 1921's Teapot Dome scandal, an investigation into surrounding President Harding, and it was investigated by Democrat Senator Thomas James Walsh. The scandal was led by New Mexican Senator Albert Bacon Fall, who I intend to address in a future Bad Blokes episode. And that scandal was named after Teapot Dome, an oil field in Wyoming. Doherty was one of many blokes involved in that scandal in that circle who managed to evade arrest over bribe charges, but Albert Fall wasn't so lucky. He was born in Washington Court House, Ohio, on the 26th of the 1st, 1860. Practiced law in Ohio after graduating from Michigan Law College in 1881. He also wrote a book. Actually, he did quite a lot when he retired from law. and probably thought the water was getting a bit too hot because he dabbled in a lot of um, dodgy deals, and it's actually quite entertaining how accurate Boardwalk Empire's depiction of him is. Um, the book in question was written in 1932 with Thomas Dixon Jr., a Baptist minister, politician, lawyer, lecturer, writer, and filmmaker. I'll put a link about him as well in the description too, because he was quite a interesting character, kind of a little bit of an oddball, but there were a lot of people who he had sort of niche political values and stuff, but a lot of people actually agreed with him. Um, he was like he had like a very southern kind of old world southern attitude. But I may actually, I haven't decided whether I'll actually talk about him in a separate episode, not of Bad Blokes, but maybe unconventional ones, because that series I'm doing is about people who've done a bit of everything, plus just people who are either niche or a bit oddballish. Because some point I tend to do a one of the episodes of that playlist. It would be what was his name now? The leader of the Hellfire Club. Not Sebastian Shaw. That's X-Men's rendition of it. But yeah, can't remember his name right now. Might put a link in there to see who I was referring to. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'm still going through this. The book, though, was called The Inside Story of the Warren Tragedy. And around that year, he retired from practicing law, and this will probably be around when he wrote the book, or between them, because the book was published in 1932. He's associated, and this is addressed in Boardwalk Empire too, with Jess Smith and Gaston Bullock Maines, who were also associated with Warren G. Harding, and Jess Smith was part of what Harding's Ohio gang, and is likely to have been involved as in the Teapot Dome scandal himself as well. But oddly enough, Gaston Bullock Maines wasn't. He eventually got arrested over I think corruption and taxes, but eventually, but he kind of outlasted his contemporaries, by being quite weirdly snide and crafty. And he lived to quite a good age, did Harry Doherty. He was about 81 when he died. He died in 1941 after a terrible year of 2 heart attacks, went blind in one eye, was bedridden, and it was eventually just the overall frail condition, pneumonia, that took him out in a bad heart, with his family by his side. So, I put him in the kind of Bad Blokes category, because he did do a lot of self-serving. Most of his things was like crafty, self-serving acts, like what would benefit him, and what and I think him along with Warren G. Harding. There's the whole stereotype in America where Republicans are seen as this kind of corporate weaselly kind of boogeyman, and it's probably blokes like Harry Doherty and Warren Harding that at least either began or reinforced that stereotype. And they thought that Republican was the way forward because I think a lot of people voted for him, and also for many years, at least through the 1920s, the 1890s to 1920s, maybe a bit onward, they used to have a thing called spooks, and it was basically just getting votes, just names on ballots, whether they be made up names or somebody who died. It didn't really matter as long as people's names were on the ballots, and I think Republicans did a lot of that. And people like Jess Smith and Harry Doherty would have done a lot of that, or facilitated a lot of that. So so I'm gonna go and edit this as best I can. So far, I'm still learning. Every night before I go to bed, I write 3 times across a page. I think it's the Dutroux method. Well, where every day and every way I'm getting better and better. You're supposed to say that in a mirror, but I do a bent on it where it's written down, and I look at it before I try and go to sleep. Even if I've had a completely shite week, it's always there as a reinforcement. Because every day, on this conclusive note, just before I go, every day, to quote Ryu from Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, every moment gives us a chance to become more than what we are. And it does. I mean, it sounds a bit cliche and a bit pretentious and everything like that, but whether you choose to do what you with your time and your days, whether that's to better yourself or do fuck all, excuse my language. Anyway, what does it matter? I don't address these videos to kids because then people can't comment, so fuck it. But yeah, if you put it to yourself to do better, then eventually, if you keep at it, you can. So yeah, in conclusion, that was History Boys Bad Blokes, episode 7. And I will do, after editing this and everything like that, I will do another recording. Episode 12 of Fun with Flag Facts. Or is it 11? No, fuck that. That's it's 11. I was contemplating doing a 12 right after this, but couldn't really be asked. I've got a list of flags that I was going to address, and I couldn't really be bothered. So yeah, as Winnie the Pooh says, TTFN, ta-ta for now. Hello, and welcome to this week's second episode of Fun Facts with Liam. And this is about one of the many people tied to the Cray twins, the infamous London gangsters, made even more famous by the twins, Gary Kemp and Martin Kemp, out of those of you that are old enough to be into Spandau Ballet or just into them in general, from Spandau Ballet, when they did the first biopic film of the Cray twins in 1990, which you can always watch back on like ITV4 or wherever, and maybe BBC America and so on, depending where you live. And 2015's Legend, where Tom Hardy played both of the Cray twins. But this is about one of their old mates, Mad Frankie Fraser, who was known for being a bit of a. I mean, I suppose this could go in bad blokes. Maybe I'll put it in the playlist. You know, History Boys Bad Blokes. Maybe, and I'll put the the link in the description to that as like a little side reference. But his background was quite diverse. I mean, he was like an East End gangster through and through. He was born in Denmark Hill in South London. I can't remember if it's South London or East London. But what would I know? I mean, you know, to quote Lenny McLean on McLean from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, which I still haven't watched, even though I like Guy Ritchie's movies. I'm a northern monkey, so what would I know? But his old man, and he talked about in one of the there's a biopic film you can catch on YouTube, which I may give a link to. Yeah, I'll do it. Where he talks about his dad being Canadian, who was half like Yellowknife or something. You know, basically to narrow it down, a merry Indian, or Injun, as like I say, you know, as John Fitzgerald brackets Tom Hardy also would say. Yeah, and his mother was half Norwegian and half Irish. But yeah, other than that, he was known for being, you know, in and out of jail, in and out of prison, hostels, and all that kind of stuff for many years, throughout his formative years, and being feared in London's criminal underworld still quite long after the Cray twins and the Richardson gang, you know, led by Charlie Richardson, had either been dismantled, dead or just gone into hiding, or have, you know, died in prison or something, basically. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say regarding Mad Frankie Fraser's father. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, blah blah blah, and I'll see you in the last 2 episodes of this week. Hello, and welcome to the episode that I promised I would do, that I was talking about last night on the first episode of Liam's culinary exploits, and that's, yes, finally the 4th episode of Bad Blokes after, well, quite literally half a year. God, has it really been that long? Yeah. Suppose, yeah, time flies at weird intervals. Anyway, yeah, so this one is about probably quite overlooked criminal, the brains behind the Chicago outfit, you know, the criminal organization that was fronted by Al Capone, who clashed with Elliot Ness of, what do you call it? The Prohibition stuff. Prohibition agent, that's it. Like Nelson Van Olden in Boardwalk Empire. It's a shame this guy didn't actually appear in Boardwalk Empire at all. I mean, I think the cancellation of it after season 5 to make room for Vinyl probably had something to do with that, because there was a load of things they could have covered to do with the Commission, Murder Incorporated, all that kind of stuff. You know, where Meyer Lansky, Lucky Luciano, and Bugsy Siegel could have gone, and you know, Siegel, of course, famously met his end while reading the newspaper in sometime in 1947, getting shot through his window, and yeah, it's quite gruesome. It's more gruesome than the biopic film of him. I mean, I recommend it if you want to, if you're a morbid sort like I am, go look up the Bugsy Siegel autopsy on like Google Images or something, and it's quite grisly. So yeah, let's go back to the matter at hand. So this is Murray Humphreys, the camel, also known as the camel, and called the Hump because he wore camel hair jackets. He was born Llewellyn Morris Humphreys and went by Murray. His Welsh relatives were from Powys. Like I said, he was the brains. Well, I guess like de facto leader of the Chicago outfit. Al Capone. It's funny talking about Boardwalk Empire again. You know, for all his aggressive, I guess, racial jokes and slight hatred is like, if any of you have watched Boardwalk Empire, and there's that scene with him talking to that second conversation in one of the season 5 episodes where he's talking to Charlie Luciano, and when he leaves, he first mocks him for not being a real Italian because he's Sicilian, and then when he leaves, he calls him a pillow biting piece of Sicilian shit. And also in one of the earlier episodes in season 3 or 4, when he's having the spat with him and Johnny Torrio, and the kind of pre-Chicago outfit thing, having the spat with the Kerry Patch, the Irish gangsters on the south side of Chicago. Dino Banion's boys, one of Dino Banion's boys, ends up beating up Jake Guzik, his bagman, a really close friend of his, who was, I think Polish Jewish anyway. So him and Johnny Torrio were quite tolerant around for as well, for who, the kind of, I guess, backgrounds could work for them. I mean, they didn't have any black people around, but maybe that was just a circumstance thing. But before he goes up to beat this this thug to death, Joe Miller, I think he was called, the Irish American that beats up Jake. When Al hears that Jake got attacked, he calls him an Irish fucking prick, even though his son is actually at least half Irish through his wife, May Capone, or May Hochland. Yeah. I mean, there's more of the focus of the relationship in the film Capone, which is Tom Hardy. Missed opportunity having Stephen Graham again, because I wax lyrical, poetic, whatever about this, but it would have been interesting to see that Al Capone deteriorate, because he was already in the early 30s. He was already going mental through cocaine abuse and neurosyphilis. Killed one of his henchmen in season 5. But back to the Hump. So he was highly regarded by Al Capone, and he was very much into politics, like his third cousin. What was he called again? The Right Honourable Daffy Wigley. Yeah. So it was like almost an innate talent for getting stuck into politics, where there's Wigley was about, I guess, I don't really know he was more, I guess, pardon the bit of a joke, but more right honourable. Whereas Humphreys, he kind of took he was one of those that took advantage of the prohibition thing, where everyone was getting rich from it. Well, I say everyone, all the yeah, title drop. Bad blokes were getting rich from it. I mean, even those that were upholding the law just to have their own thing going on, and yeah, just they were just using loopholes, or finding loopholes, I mean, going back to and digressing back to Boardwalk Empire. There's the whole thing with Philadelphia senator, or one of the prohibition, I guess, committees or whatever. I have to look up my political ranks and stability status things, but in Boardwalk, this Andrew William Mellon played. I mean, it was only 2 episodes, but he was brilliantly played by the great, probably sort of now overlooked James Cromwell. You know, the kind of boss of the prison in the Green Mile, with the with the sick wife of the brain tumor. But he had his own distillery in Pennsylvania called Overholt. Yeah, and so he probably knew Humphreys probably quite well. Same with Al Capone. And yeah, another fact is that when Al Capone was doing time for tax evasion in the 30s, Humphreys actually took the reins of the Chicago outfit, but it turns out he wasn't that different from Capone in, like, cockiness and bending the rules and being a bit risky, because he himself got charged for tax evasion, but he managed to try to bugger off to, he buggered off to Indiana, and where he eventually got found. He got sentenced to 18 months and ended up doing 15 months for that somehow. And I picked out this quote when I was reading about him, which is quite I think is quite powerful and significant to do with the whole his attitude towards money making and laws, and how laws can be bent, and circumstances of the time. And he said, "The difference between guilt and innocence in any court is who gets to the judge first with the most." Yeah. Sorry if it looked like I was reading from that, but my short-term memory shit sometimes. And I like to just have all my ducks in a row, as they say. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before. His Welsh relatives came from Powys. That was supposed to kind of go with his blood, distant but not too distant blood relation with Dafydd Wigley. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that right. I know I do have some Welsh ancestry on one of my maternal sides or whatever. I don't really know. But I'm practically. I mean, practically, it's a bit watered down, and I have sort of Irish as well, so it kind of makes me a proto Scouse, I guess, in a way. That's what I'd call it. And yeah, so he met his end in 1965, shortly after some arrest, some incident with the police. Probably already had a bad heart, obviously, but yeah, his brother Ernest Humphreys found him. Was the first person to find him dead of a massive heart attack. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry if I'm looking off to the side with the reading stuff again. So yeah, that was before because I'm crap at ending things when I'm recording. So yeah, that was Bad Blokes episode 4, and if you want to check that out, that's on my videos, my channel, and also I have a Bad Blokes playlist that some of you may have already know due to the views, where there's stuff about the Crusades, and the first cyber hackers, and again Adam Worth, one of the big inspiration behind James Moriarty from Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock novels, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know when I'm going to be doing the 5th episode, but that'll be on there on the playlist and on my channel. So this is History Boy signing off, and be sure to like, subscribe, and I know eventually some of you will comment, but yeah, I'm not holding on to that really. But the engagement, it's subscriptions and other engagement, that's more than appreciated. So I'll see you later. Hello, it's History Boy, and I'm just chilling in the bath while I do this. I mean, I've contemplated a few times doing this on the toilet, but I'll probably be compared to that virtually dead meme on the very site that I'm going to upload to, obviously YouTube. Don't know why I felt the need to point that out, but yeah. So yeah, this is part of a playlist I haven't done for a good while. Bad Blokes, episode 5 now, and today we're going to be talking about Tony Tercy. So he, as well, surprised by the name, he is Italian, well, Italian-American. Identity, blah, blah, blah. Don't know how far it goes sometimes. It varies with people. But, yeah. I mean, what sets him apart from his stereotypical ilk, I guess, is that he moved a lot of his, budding criminal empire to Puerto Rico, and in the 50s through to the 70s he ran a nightclub called La Riviera. I'm probably butchering that, but different dialects of Spanish and everything, so maybe I'll be let off. Who knows? There's a dialect for every language. But yeah. So he got in. He rubbed shoulders, got friendly with the San Juan criminal underworld, and the first few times he was arrested, I believe, because there was rumours of, probably most likely true, of prostitution. It was rumoured to be a bit of a strip joint, but he managed to get away through, because he dabbled heavily in politics, and as I said, he had connections, and in 1968 he actually unsuccessfully ran for mayor of San Juan. So in the end, in the back end of the 70s, in 79 to be specific, him and his son Philip were both arrested for stuff like money embezzlement and all the rest of it. And I mean, there'll be more information in the sources I put in the description, but sort of trying to work on the bad habit I have of skim reading things when I'm, well, technically on the job. So in the end, he retired to Nevada. Initially, I thought he was affiliated with the Vegas mob, but yeah, he retired there, and then he died in 1989 at the age of 88. Not a bad innings, really, for someone like him. I mean, I suppose he avoided like proper physical danger. He knew how to talk to people and was a sleazy politician, probably consigliere type, and stuff like that. I apologise for the noise outside. It's just people on the street. This junction, basically. I'm thinking a little bit of his stuff slightly was used as a basis for some of the stuff that was happening in Casino, because I've watched it way too many times. I mean, spoilers for anyone who's still looking to watch it. If they're on a Martin Scorsese film fest and they haven't, they haven't come across, they haven't, had the chance to watch Casino for the first time. There's a bit in it where some old timey mobsters who were trying to. They made a decision to eliminate loose ends and potential risks and rats and whatever they call them. And there's a bit in it where one of their guys, his son, gets pinched on a drug charge, and he's there in not Puerto Rico but Costa Rica, which it's almost like an X-Pie for the real stuff. So I wonder if there was a slight nod to Tercy in that, along with the son, being sort of almost like the apple not rotting far from the tree, being a criminal like his old man. But maybe, I mean, there's loads of conspiracy stuff around that sort of walk of life. Personally, I think, and this might be the movie Casino, basically influencing my, not judgment, but it makes you think, because Scorsese does a lot of nods to real things, to like proper mobster stuff. They didn't quite say it word for word, but it's like, oh, it's that guy that got whacked in, that way and whatever. But I'll get back to it. I think probably when he moved to Nevada, he probably was some kind of advisor, consigliere kind of person for the Vegas mob, or what was left of them at the time, because their heyday was like in the 50s. Because they kind of followed Bugsy Siegel's, the Jewish gangsters, kind of what he set up there. There's not really much else to say about the sleazy mob politician Tony Tercy. I mean, in a weird way, there's a bit of almost respect for the bloke, really, because, well, he saw where the money was, and like, to me, he was a kind of guy that somewhere umming and ahhing, just all this noise and what have you. Yeah, and this is a bit of an unpulled recording, so I'm like I was psyching myself up, but yeah, he went further afield than, probably some of the cronies that he grew up around. So, yeah, and there's not really much on his son, I don't think. I didn't really look into him. But actually, that'd be a good idea for a film or something. Don't steal it, anyone. Seriously. Yeah, yeah. Call it Tercy and Son. Maybe a series. I'm probably butchering his last name pronunciation, but who knows. So anyway, yeah, that was episode 5 of Bad Blokes, and I haven't done that in a while, so I've been itching to kind of do that. So, as always, I'm going to do the usual spiel, bunkum, rubbish. Like, subscribe, dislike if you want, comment. I'm always fascinated in people's comments. So, yeah. This is History Boy signing off.